welcome back to this channel MisReactions, where I'll bring you the best reactions from YouTube. For those new here, I'm Robert from the channel Mislead Loyalty, and I love sharing my honest opinions on the most viral and trending videos of the moment. You know how it is. I sit here, we watch the content together, and I give you my most authentic, unfiltered reaction. What you see is what you get, pure sincerity and good vibes. Today we have a video that is breaking the internet, and I couldn't help but share my reaction. But before we start, if you like the content, support it by liking, subscribing, and activating the bell so you don't miss any reactions. And if you'd like to see more content like this or have suggestions for reaction videos, leave them in the comments. Let's get started with today's video. Thanks for being here. See you in the next video.
Buenas noches, mi gente. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family, como siempre. And before I start, I just got done going through your guys' comments, and como siempre, it really moves me, you guys' kind words and you guys' prayers you express towards me. I said it once, twice, and I'll say it again, I wish I had the correct words to show you guys my appreciation, but do know, that from the Cora, your words and prayers or the time you're taking to express them, they really do mean a lot, especially for a cat like me that, I was no angel in my life. Gracias. And, second of all, I want to address something, as you guys know, I don't address negative comments. I don't give these type of individuals the time of day. At the end of the day, everybody's in the right to feel the way they feel, and I'm at peace with that. It really don't fade me what a ignorant person thinks of me, to be sincere. And why I say this is because I seen a comment that's basically telling me that how I can speak about not rolling over, snitching, or wreck. And I'm just gonna say this, man. you know if you think that what I'm doing is snitching or rolling over, then you're wet behind the ears, my boy. I'll just say it like that. You really haven't been nowhere and don't know nothing. Because first and foremost, the things I say, they're documented in California. Second of all, things I speak on different spots and situations, they're in a place where there's no repercussions gonna come of them. But again, if you're gonna teach me about the ropes, mis respetos. I'll just leave it at that, and I don't want to give too much time to this individual. I won't put your name out there because, I just don't want to do that, But, again, it saddens me because by the seams of it, you're raza, and from ignorant raza like yourself that's willing to always abide and get stepped on, is why, our gente, sureña, norteña, bulldog, never gets out from underneath these vatos, Because there's gente like you willing to uphold what's all bad with these vatos, And I'm not talking about me, man. It could be anybody. You're seeing them doing something positive to help our people get out of that type of life, and you're downplaying it, man. But again, mis respetos to you, and I hope your way of thinking takes you far, my guy. But anyways, I disculpen mi gente. I just thought I addressed this because, it really got me mad for a lot of reasons that I'm not gonna take you guys' time and put on here, But I hope you guys get what I'm trying to say. Okay, to the story at hand, the next two stories I wanna touch up on three individuals, three pili señores that for a while I've been seeing a lot of different people touch on them, and basically glorify, or to a certain extent try to portray these vatos as as something different than what they were. So the reason I'm touching up on these three is because I personally was there, seen it, heard it, and I could speak on it because of that. Now again, nobody telling me their stories. It's not hearsay, he said, she said stuff that I'm speaking about. As I stated before, I'm only speaking on what I can speak up because I had some personal interaction with the situation. But okay, mi gente, for the first one, I wanna touch on the Pili, cycle from Santa Monica. Now, I heard a lot of different stories about him. One of them being that he was a strict Pili, that he had it rough getting to where he's at, and you know, which is to me is completely wrong. It's far from the truth. Yeah, I remember it wasn't the thing that made him, but it was the thing that his first mission asked to take care of. Or one of, if not his first. And for that, let me just take you back a while. I was in Ironwood. I was in Ironwood 3 block A yard, and in this yard, I had a handball partner. You know, little sneaky from Santa Monica, and you know, we got to like each other, but it wasn't like a camarada level, which meant like politics or what was going on in the yard, or look at that fool, or none of that. It was just like we go out, get a rutina, handball, and go back in the day room, play, dominoes, chess, that type of relationship we had. And I already knew who he was. For the simple fact, as I mentioned before, I had that yard for Terco, so I was aware of those that had some type of importance on the yard. Even if they weren't involved in the politics, I still was aware of those. Basically, that if something happened, there was going to be repercussions from an angle, from another Pili. Now I knew Sneaky was Psycho's primo. You know. Now on the same yard, different block, there was another camarada from Santa Maria. Smiley, which is weird because they were crimies. They were crimies from the streets, and they were in the same yard, that same pinta. And it happens, but you don't see it often. Well, I don't want to get too much in debt about this story. But let me just say this. The reason why Sneaks stuck up with me is because you know me personally, I was raised as a sureño. As a sureño should at least think about another sureño. At least when we're busted, man. I understand. Down south it's game banging. Neighborhood against neighborhood, which is understandable. But once you're inside, you either fall with the causa or you don't. You keep game banging. So when you're already programming with the camaradas, then you should always have heart for the camaradas. Because that's mainly what you're claiming, right? Now for us up north, well, at least me growing up, as I mentioned before, I got busted when I was 16, and but up until that point, it was carnalismo overall, on the streets. It was mainly we don't hurt each other. It was just something that even though I was in the mix, I always kept an eye out for. Those that had heart righteously for people from our causa. That they weren't expecting something back. Now, why I say this is because at this time, I had a lot of already a lot of tattoos. I believe I had my whole right arm, and yeah, I had all my evil stuff, and I had iron part of my left back arm. Well, some, my shoulder and my back arm, and I seen the homie. He had some really good skills making letters. So I went up to him and I told him, "Hey, homie, do me a paro, make me some letras. I want to get like underneath from what I have in the back of my head. I want to get it a big XR, and because in between my shoulders I have a big, Aztec 13, and I wanted the SR to sit on top of the Aztec 13, and in between what I have on the back of my head. So and I want from the bottom part to my shoulder, I want to get a 707, and so the homie did, so with me it was always that way, a hand always has to scratch the next hand. If one scratches yours, why not scratch theirs, right? So out of love and respect, he did him, I liked him, and I told him straight up, I just got a package, my boy, I'm gonna hook you up, for the bottle. And he straight up said, nah, the way I do things, I do it from the heart. I don't expect nothing. I don't want you to give me nothing. If at the end of the day, if I didn't want to do nothing, I won't do it. And that stuck with me, because of the way I was raised. Because when someone does something just out of heart, without gaining nothing back, it's rare in person. Believe me, it's rare in person. Everybody's after getting something. So I was like, cool, that homie's young, but he has a good mindset. So I always kept him in mind for that reason, man. Even though he wouldn't accept nothing then, I knew in the future we all go through our struggles in prison, because you might not catch a draw one month or X thing, and that's when you could come up, hey, you know what? Here, homie, te doy unas sopas, chanate, X, and well, anyways, I don't want to lose you guys on everything. Now at this time, the first mission that Psycho got sent was to find two bottles that hit a stash spot, excuse me, in in Santa Monica, and they had taken dope, a couple guns, and I guess the bottles that had that spot were uh were under someone, someone else from Santa Monica. I'm pretty sure you guys know who it is, at this time. And now mind you, remember I said this is Psycho's primo. Homeboy staying clean away from politics, being in the mix. Homeboy got up, did his little drawing, went out to yard, got his money, got his workout, mind his business, period. When it was time to get up and go to war, he did what he was supposed to. But here's the kicker. I got a kite one day. It was from a different bottle from Bassett. I'll just say that. I don't want to put his name out there, but he basically got at me and told me, hey, T wants me to tell you that to go ahead and call over there. So I was to go ahead and report to la señora out there, right? So I made that phone call, and next thing you know, he told me, look, so and so and so and so, and I said, yeah, what's up? And then, well, T says that within this time lapse, they're gonna move on him and they're gonna remove him. The orders are to to go ahead and take that jugular, I was like, and may I know the reason behind it? And then they told me, basically, I was like, and who's this coming from? So when they told me who it was coming from, I was like, oh, hell no. Up until this point, I seen a lot of shady stuff, but it's rare, even amongst carnales, that they target family, and when they told me it was from Psycho, I was like, damn, they're blood cousins. But again, you know, it wasn't my business to get in their business, yeah, and so out of respect, I felt like I should have done something. I felt bad throughout the years. I'll just leave it at that. I knew if I went there and addressed Sneaks with this, and he was aware of it when it happened, and knew he was aware. Only one avenue where it could have came from. So I wasn't, I wasn't an idiot. But and again, caras vemos, corazones no sabemos, right? So I didn't know if homeboy being busted, he was keeping it cool, but when he was on the calles, drugs, whatever, and he did something he wasn't supposed to. So the time came, and the shooters, it was they put four on the guy. This comes from your cousin now. Keep that in mind. Put four individuals on you to cut your jugular. Which what else can you think from the sidelines? It has to be true. This is his own primo moving on him, right? So they hit him. They hit him gacho. I really think they didn't kill him because where they did it at, it was close to a tower that came out with the blood gun and hit someone on the head and had him pass out. And I really think that really helped homeboy to get away. But after this, it was like he got back there to the hole, and he tried to come out to graveyard. He got moved on, so he had no option but go that other avenue. And protect himself, basically look out for himself. Now throughout the years, I always had that little, how do I say it, man? I always had that in my head, how these vatos could have someone move on his own primo. He had to have some foundation, man. And for those that I seen come on here and talk about Psycho this, Psycho that, he's firmes, he's never done a camarada wrong. And, you know, these are 100% facts because I was there, man. As I was there in Tehachapi Shoe, when, Smilon from V&E was there, and Psycho came through on a layover, and, you know, he ended up being there for a couple of days and split it. And Smilon just, one day we went to medical. We happened to be at the cages, and we were conversating, and I asked him, just because he was on the other side of the block, and I told him, hey, I heard your hermano so and so from Santa Monica was here for a couple of days, right? And he was upset, man, and he basically told me, yeah, man, but don't trust that cat, Now this is coming from another senor, and I was like, okay, may I ask, may I ask why you state this? I don't mean to question you. I just would like to know the reasons behind it. So he basically started telling me a story, right? And he told me how when he was on the outs, him and another individual went into a stash pad, excuse me. They jacked him and everything, and right after he got made, he had two younger homies from his neighborhood removed and go piece it up to take and basically threw the wrap on them. So I was like, oh hell no, and I told my loan, I straight up told him I was at Ironwood when this happened, and it was the homie Sneaky, and so and that was his blood primo. I met the homie, and I showed him this is his pattern, this is his pattern, and he told me that makes it even worse. So my advice to you, camarada, is show your respects, but don't get tangled up in his personal stuff, And throughout the years, that's all I heard, how he was a greedy person. Was always doing even the organization wrong, but for one reason or the next, he always found a way to wiggle out. Again, those tecatos ways, and again, disculpa, I address it like that, but please, I'm still waiting on someone to come on here and tell me what other thing could he call it, right? And I just think it's something real shady, that he would go to that extent to cover his butt, and being bad enough, you throw two righteous camaradas. We already know they think of camaradas as throwaways to put them in, have them take the rap for it, but to actually feel he's so much in a corner where he has to throw two camaradas from San Monica to throw his own cousin under the bus, to put that order out there to kill his cousin, knowing damn well that it wasn't him. And again, the reason why I'm addressing this is because seen a lot of stories. I'm not gonna mention Burbu because I don't want none of that. But I seen how he dressed. He was a firme pili. He was always looking out for the gente and this and that. I mean, come on. It's what's spreading poison amongst the raza, man. You talk about an individual that, in one way, paint him as they say, legends, when they're really, dope finas gatos, willing to keep his name in clean, which they wouldn't touch a heart to hurt nobody. And that's what's expected for our youth. And I heard this Billy, he likes youngsters, man. And I can understand why, he's a dirty individual. Youngsters could be easily, you know, molded into what he wants. And at the same time, he does something wrong and he showed it this time, he would do it again. Throw them under the bus and clean it up using them. Now again, tienen a sus zapatos que se pueden quitar y tirar, right? But I just thought I'd share this story about, I know I addressed the camarada Sneaks. I have mad respect for the camarada. It threw me off when they said it was behind that, and I questioned it. That makes me as guilty on his neck, man. Knowing he showed me nothing but love and respect. Uh, but again, I'm just gonna keep it 100. I was a coward. I was a coward that I allowed these people to punk to dictate my life to the point where I knew something was wrong. That I thought I was a soldado, but I didn't even have, you know what, to stand up and stick for something that was my gente. Cause Sneaks was my gente. He was a sureño, and it's exactly what's happening. There's individuals that come on here and speak about things that, even though they were gang banging or in that, they were never involved in that life, man. And I could tell just by the first 5, 6 words that come out, that you speak what you hear, man. But again, this is a story just for those that are out there thinking that you could give everything for this type of gente. You know, there's gonna come a point where they're gonna need to clean their actions up, and if you're in that situation where they can do it, you don't mean nothing to them. You know, that's exactly what you should think about going to earn your bones, or to have these type of people think something highly of you, because that's just not gonna happen, man. Just keeping it 100, you know. Like I said before, you know, I put over 25 years of being in the gutter for this gente. Literally, I gave my life up not once but many times. And as you guys will hear at the end of my story, it ain't mean a damn thing. But you know, I just thought I'd put this story out there. You know, I understand that Psycho's in hot water right now, and that his time might come up for numerous reasons. I'm not gonna say it's this, but I seen somebody questioning why him, that they were politicking against him. Nah, it was just one out of many dirty persons, you know. And I thought I would put this story out there. For my next story, I'm gonna touch on somebody, some other Pili that there's been a lot of he said she said stories, lies on bouts on how he got his life taken, you know. But con esto dicho, I won't take more of you guys' time. I know to a lot I'm a big old headache. The way I speak, the way I express myself. Do know again, I ain't trying to hurt nobody by me coming on here and saying my stories. So I have to be I have to be cautious. You know, at times, sometimes things are gonna slip out where I could, drag fourth parties that have nothing to do with the point I'm trying to address in my story. But anyways, again, muchas gracias, mi gente. Stay true to yourself. Stay loyal to your loved ones. Stay loyal to life, man. I send my love. Buenas noches.
See you in the next video. Thank you for your time and for being part of this wonderful YouTube family. See you next time.